What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of appreciation to Abraham Mohammed, Adam, Adrian Quintana, Alistair Main, Billy Highvault, Blue Ridge Ranger, Burn Fat Till My Stomach Is As Flat As The Earth, Chow Young Cat, Dank, Dave Rakia Gafford, David Wayne Foster, Daz Studio 68, Edwin Johnson, Erwin Jennisons, Felix Hung, Fireball X, God Rockin', Henrik 86, Jeranism, Joshua Balsimo, Kirsten Smith, Liam Nedrick, Life is Short, Matt, Missouri Bear, Nagara, Nathan Thompson, Naibai, Qatar Craig, Renee, Rob H, Sally Ballis, Silver Umbrella, Skeptic 936, Texas Mike, The Real Gabster, Tina Baker, Tom Herkins, UK Diamond 33, Unbelievable Productions, and Windrider. So a massive shout out of appreciation to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now we are joined by a fair few people, I hope, in Discord and G+. Let's have a little look. So you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for the first live show. You there, 10th man?
Yeah.
Foraging everyone off mute in Discord. A few of them already are.
Okay.
Hey Nathan,
Hello.
how you doing today?
Very well.
I heard the funniest thing today when I was listening to another channel.
Okay.
He said we have to tell him that the horizon could be a mountain or a tree. I could.
Yeah, sure. If you look in the definitions of horizon, they do clarify in some of them that they're not talking about specifically the topology that could block your view. I think that's got a different definition with the word horizon attached, like a local horizon or something like that.
Yeah, he was like, we have to say that you can't see the sphere horizon, but you can see a tree or a mountain as the horizon. I couldn't stop laughing. Him and what's his name, Grim Beach.
Yeah, they're all into denying their own geometry at the moment. It's comical.
Is that Red Man?
Say again. I think it was Redman, yeah.
I'll send it to you, Righteous.
So yesterday I was in high spirits because I saw a few people utilising the Black Swan argument to devastating effect. And then yesterday evening doing similar search term searches, came across people who clearly didn't. It was a bit of a disappointment. And they tend to preface it by declaring that they do know it. They understand the argument. And it seems like a bit of a tell when they say, I do understand the Black Swan. It's like, oh yeah. Why are you declaring that and then not actually explaining anything about the argument or why it's invalid or why it's old? So one of them was saying, this is just the same as a 2014 argument. I'm like, no, it isn't. The evidence that supports the modus tollens argument developed on the 2nd of January 2020, the evidence could be as old as you like. The Earth's been flat forever, so there's going to be plenty of photos to back this argument that's brand spanking new. You know, it's developed in 2020. So it's not an old argument by any stretch, but that just tells me again that that particular individual doesn't understand the argument. Just thinks the argument is the photo. The evidence is the argument. It's like, no, it isn't.
I think it was pretty readily available. It's in print. You can print it. The argument is written down. Don't deviate from it. I don't understand why people get in the wrong when they could just read it.
Because they don't understand it. Because it's not immediately obvious. Or they just assume they know it by saying, I've seen a picture like that before. Or I know the argument that goes along with pictures like that. Therefore, I know this argument. It's just been relabeled. It's like, no, it hasn't. This is a brand spanking new argument. And there's all sorts of different evidence that could go along with it. The fact that we've picked a very specific piece and labelled it the Black Swan doesn't make the Black Swan photo or the Black Swan analogy the argument. It isn't. But people just hear the words vaguely. It's like headline readers. They read the headline on their newspaper outside the newsagent and go, I know the full story.
Well, like that argument, like a coin, will have two sides. Why is it that we, who are talking right now, can't recall this argument back in 2015, and they do?
Because it's just a lie. It's a way of covering people who don't understand the argument. So they say, I understood it back in 2016, like this is beyond me now. I don't need to even acknowledge what the argument is. It's an old argument. It's like, well, no, it isn't. And it's not as straightforward as meets the eye if you're just putting a cursory glance across a headline.
Yeah.
I have a question on Black Swan.
Good.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I was wondering whether you could use modus tollens for Coriolis. Because actually you, Nathan, seem to have used that sort of in your discussions. I remember when you said that they couldn't have it both ways. So you could not display at the same time Coriolis and have the sort of a velcroing effect of the atmosphere on the Earth. I was wondering whether you could do a modus tollens with an observation, for example, of a drone or something, going upwards and experiencing no Coriolis, therefore no Earth spin.
That's correct. That is modus tollens, what you've just said. So if the Earth is turning, that would be P, then there will be a Coriolis effect. That would be Q. No Coriolis effect, not Q. Therefore, not P. No Earth turn. So yeah, it's absolutely been formulated that way. It hasn't been overtly stated as modus tollens in the way the Black Swan has, but many of the arguments have been formulated into modus tollens by Quantum Eraser, either overtly or indirectly. So, it's not my argument. The Coriolis argument in its formulation with modus tollens was made very clear to me by Quantum Eraser. And coincidentally, I did the same thing with Sleeping Warrior just this morning. So I hope he doesn't think I'm throwing him under the bus if he hears this. But he was saying he wants a gyroscope sent to Australia to see if it deviates in the opposite direction. And I said, there's no point. Because if you understand the modus tollens argument, I didn't say it in those words, by the way. Excuse me. If you understand the argument, there is no necessity to send a gyroscope anywhere. The way I attack it is to start with the assumption that it is drifting. Okay, so you've got a 15 degree per hour drift under a gyro with its fixed reference frame because the gimbal's attached to an Earth that's spinning underneath. So the claim, you start with their claim to be proof of Earth spin. If the Earth rotates underneath the gyro, then it also rotates underneath the drone. So you start with their assertion rather than just a claim that we have Earth turn, because Earth turn, according to them, necessitates this Coriolis deviation that you would see if you had a separate turning reference frame. It's claimed to be demonstrated in pendulums and gyroscopes, so take it at face value. Okay, you claim Earth's turning and gyroscopes prove it. They drift by 15 degrees an hour. So Earth's turning and you've got it proven by a gyro. You've got a Coriolis drift. Well, then we've got to see Coriolis drift fact in everything, always. There are no exceptions. Nothing's going to be violating the first law of thermodynamics and increasing its speed relative to the ground it's left. That's not going to happen ever. So you end up with this necessity for Coriolis effect on a spinning Earth, and it would be there to prove out that we were spinning if it existed. It just isn't. There is no drift under a drone. It goes up, it hovers, it stays there, and your battery runs out and it comes back down again. Well, nothing's drifting underneath at any degree an hour, and it must if there's a Coriolis effect. So if P, Earth is turning, with Coriolis deviation being demonstrated in a gyroscope, then you've got to have 15-degree turn an hour underneath drones. You don't, therefore Earth's not spinning. You could simplify that into if Earth turn, then Coriolis, no Coriolis, therefore no Earth turn.
Yeah, I wonder how many other arguments can be formulated in that way.
All of the ones that are in the info box below each of the Uncut and After shows and live shows. So there's a flat Earth proof video, and all of those arguments could be formulated into modus tollens. I incorrectly said on a previous show that all of the housekeeping questions, which simply isn't the case. But nevertheless, all of the flat Earth proofs, as they've been dubbed in the info box, all of those could be formulated into a modus tollens. I think there might be one exception, but for the most part, any of those arguments could be formed in that way. One was recently. So the assertion that there's no drop in a plane, obviously set this up with an example. So you're standing on a runway, you're looking out, doing all the observations that the fundies do, and they're claiming that something you see in the distance is dropping around Earth curve. So again, you start with the premise that things are falling away from you as you look out from this runway. And obviously the further you can see, the more they're going to be dropping around Earth's curvature. Well, if you take off in the plane, then obviously the plane has got to scrub off that drop that you're claiming you can observe. If Earth's a sphere, well, no plane's scrubbing off any drop ever, therefore there's no drop. Well, that's the same formulation. It's the same modus tollens argument.
Yeah, because part of the strength of this black swan argument seems to be the modus tollens way it's framed. So therefore I'm wondering whether insisting more on that line of argument, or sort of that way of presenting the argument, if that would not lead to the same strength with the other arguments.
Yeah, it would. What we're focused on up until 2020 was the necessity to formulate logical fallacy to claim a proof of a sphere Earth, or a turning Earth, or a sky vacuum, or whatever we were arguing against. So they present their evidence when we present to them how it's fallacious. Well, in the same vein, quantum race has been presenting modus tollens argument in the form of those flat Earth proofs for a number of years. Now, he hasn't necessarily taken something like the black swan, which is a new formulation of modus tollens, and overtly stated it is modus tollens, and it's not even that the strength is in the formation of modus tollens. Being on a flat plane is our reality. Therefore, I'm not decrying what quantum erase has done, but you're not going to find it difficult to find examples of that and then formulate them with logical consistency. Now, depending on how things progress over the next few years, people will be able to, depending on how much of the programming they relinquish, formulate their own logical consistencies. Logic is kind of hardwired into you as an individual, or most people, to varying degrees. So therefore, the logical nature of how the world presents itself will formulate itself in the minds of most people. Now, when you get down to the nitty-gritty of giving it a name, that isn't necessarily a strength for being in modus tollens. It just is modus tollens, and that is a logical consistency. But the world being flat and being able to apply logical consistency to it ultimately just means that is the nature of reality. You can apply logical consistency. You can't apply logical consistency for a globe. You try formulating a modus tollens argument. You can't. That's why they affirm the consequent. They can't formulate it into modus tollens, so they beg the question, assume the outcome, and then affirm the consequent.
Yeah, it's that modus tollens seems to be especially apt at showing a doublespeak. You see what I mean? So typically Yeah, that's what was shown in the Black Swan argument, where we saw the doublespeak on the true versus the geometric versus apparent horizon, and that's the link that I made because there was a lot of doublespeak on the Coriolis versus Velcro to the Earth argument as well. So that's what I that that's the strength that I observe in this argument. Not only you know formulating naturally modus tollens, but it seems to be very apt at exposing doublespeak from the Globers.
Well, all the Coriolis argument descended into was doublespeak, by way of people not recognising when the argument had been won. So it descends into the globehead argument essentially being a defence of why there is no Coriolis effect, and our side being content to argue that with them. And then all you end up with is a flat earther arguing for why the globehead they're arguing with should have the assertion that there is a Coriolis effect, while the globehead's arguing for there not being anyone. So it just leaves the audience in a state of confusion. Who's arguing for what? Why are they arguing for it? Who's won at the end? It's really difficult to dilute. You're right, as soon as you formulate it into modus tollens with if Earth is spinning there'll be a Coriolis effect, no Coriolis effect, therefore no spinning Earth, it becomes a lot more consistent in terms of just rattling it off to your opponent. And then you seek the argument in the consistency of the logic. There must be a Coriolis effect if Earth is turning. That's the logical consistency. Now, at that point, they might do what they've done with the horizon, which is say, we don't take that position. And you're like, yeah, you do. That's the basis of your religion. So it is just doublespeak, the responses. I mean, you can see JLB do the exact same thing. So he's presented with the argument in terms of drop, and at the end of it, it's double speaking between, well, it shouldn't be dropping because it's on a model, and we don't have to reduce our altitude. You're like, well, these two things are in contradiction. One is in reality they're not dropping, the other is on your model it should be, but you're claiming it should be because it isn't. It's like, no, you're tying yourself in knots because something isn't occurring and cannot be formulated, therefore, with logical consistency. If we were on a sphere, the plane's got to scrub off the drop that's claimed to be there. And it doesn't. Well, if it was a sphere, it would. And one of the panel members while JLB was on said exactly that. Well, what if it was dropping around the sphere Earth? Well, it would be dropping around the sphere Earth, wouldn't it? We wouldn't be having this argument. In other words, it's very difficult to formulate a logical consistency, in fact impossible, if something isn't logically consistent. We're not on a spinning sphere in a vacuum. It's not logically consistent, and you can't therefore formulate any logical consistency, so all you end up with is logical fallacy.
Okay, no, I see. Thanks. Just well done. I mean, keep up the good work. It's very interesting to see this developing, and thanks for the show, and maybe I'll have to do some financial contribution at some point, but it's very enjoyable, and thank you very much.
No, my pleasure.
Bye.
It's been good already.
Cool.
Good morning, all.
Hey, Paul. Back to the conversation about people getting or not getting the Black Swan. So I was listening to 24/7 Discord just before I started setting the show up. And again, there's clearly people in that conversation that have gone from being what I would call on the fence. They would describe as, I'm 99% certain it's flat Earth. It's like, well, in other words, you're open to the option that it could be a sphere, you could be proven wrong. And they've gone, well, now it's an impossibility. And you're like, yeah, it's untenable now. You geometrically impossible to assume you're on a sphere from this point forward. So, there's going to be a lot of tensions rising in the globe community. QE knew that already, and I already assume that a lot of them are quite depressed. It's self-evident they project a lot of their depression onto us.
Share your pain.
Share your pain, Fundies.
On the after show.
on the after show yesterday. I think it was the day before yesterday. I can't remember exactly, but Puppy Lover, they were trying to nail him down on the argument, like, do you agree or disagree? And he would squirm like there's no tomorrow, you know. So he would not agree that we do not. He would say we do not claim Q. I was like, real, you know, but nobody would. Every time he tried to nail him down, he would squirm his way out. He would not. He would not let you nail him down on it. It was so funny listening to them go after it. That's funny.
And that's all they can do: flip flop, squirm, lie, double speak, and have it pointed out that they're conceding their religion in the rebuttal. I love that. There's very few trench arguments that they're not prepared to literally let go of the original rhetoric for. But in most instances, you let go of the rhetoric and fight for a different part of an assumption that has the sphere Earth or the turning Earth as part of the assumption. So you're arguing from a position that seems, at the very least, seems tenable. Whereas in this instance, to argue the Black Swan, you've got to deny geometry. You've got to deny the fundamental tenets of the religion of sphere Earth to argue it in rebuttal. He's just screwed. I like it so much because the ones that don't get it are the ones that have ended up coming in and arguing with us because they want to get it. Or they think, what's the big deal? I've heard so many people say refraction that surely that's just a slam dunk, go in, say refraction and walk out with your head held high, right? No.
They're in checkmate, Nathan, and we can't expect them to behave any differently than when someone is checkmated.
Well,
all they can do is knock the king over. That's all they can do.
Say again, Paul?
I said all they can do is knock the king over, but they refuse to. You know, in checkmate, when you get it, you knock the king over, saying you're done, but they won't knock the king over.
That's very true. So I saw Babs arguing about it on Spurs show, and it's just so calm. He knows he's gotten by the short hairs while he's arguing the point, and every time he gets to a win, while he didn't overtly state, I've beaten you, they had to flap onto a different subject, ask how flat Earth works, and then at some point they get back onto the subject, but the guy's immediately referencing his geometric calculator, and Babs, very casual, very cool, it's just like, where are you getting your geometry from? You know, he knows how to end each of the conversations, and like I say, he doesn't necessarily point out that they've lost each time they do, but he draws a quick conclusion to the conversation because he understands the argument. So he knows, I can just totally relax into this. There was a few moments where he's being asked about various things that he's like, I haven't studied that, and of course they want to hold him there while he's saying, I don't know, I haven't got a clue, I don't know what the sun is. But they want to hold him about how the clouds are being lit from underneath. It's like, haven't we just deviated away from something that you haven't answered? You know, you're still telling him as a rebuttal that you can use actual sizes when you've babbled on about how non-geometric the horizon is. It's never going to be seen as geometric. We've got atmosphere always, blah, 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 blah. And then it's straight to the actual sizes in the Earth curve geometry. You're like, hang on, how did this little segue take place? And that would be my only criticism of Babs. It's like, you got to slap them when they do that. Hang on, why are we using this geometric calculation again? Well, refraction's what we're seeing. Well, no. Refraction in your calculator is based on radius. So no. You need that radius, and you need that geometric horizon, which you're declaring you haven't got. And you want me to just accept Earth curve geometry calculations now? Come on. What about the actual sizes that you're using? Aren't they supposed to be apparent? Everything's apparent for you now, right? You're more than happy to relinquish your religion at a heartbeat, relinquish all effects of geometry, and substitute them in for geometric refraction? Okay. Yeah, that's not going to fly. It's checkmate. Relinquishing the geometry is essentially the death nail for their own religion. And when you get them to that point, they're normally saying something that they know they shouldn't be saying. And all you literally have to do, or I've been doing, is repeating back to them their statement verbatim. And you know what I get for that? For literally verbatim parroting their own previous statement back to them, I get, no. Now, you've just explained that the horizon is refracted some degree above the geometric horizon. So the apparent, redundant, horizon's above the geometric horizon. So the horizon we see is not geometric. And they go, no. Like, yeah, that's what you just argued for. But they hear it. They hear the horizon's not geometric, and suddenly there's a cognitive break. They go, shit, no escape.
It's under the arguments. They're saying, man, our model is broken. Our model doesn't work. I can't fight this. My model can't substantiate it.
Yeah, but like I say, if it was a machine, the machine would start spitting out smoke and sparks and saying does not compute. For a human, it's just painful, cognitively painful, depressing. I in passing mentioned it in Arwen's chat, so again, just before the show, I typed into Arwen's chat, these people are all depressed. I've known it for ages. They project their depression onto us. And Arwen read it out and expanded on it, and he did a really good job. He gets it totally. It's like, yeah, I'm paraphrasing what he just said, basically, which is to say that the mental stresses and strains of something that's completely untenable is going to leave a mark. Leave a mark. That's what QE said, right? Holy shnikes, this is going to leave a mark. And yeah, it's metaphorical, but mentally, it's true. Just got to set a couple of things up. Hopefully, you'll talk amongst yourselves.
Sure. Paul, can you talk, Paul?
I can. I'm at the grocery store, so if you hear some background noise, I can talk. So just so you know, I'm at the grocery store.
Oh, no problem. So how did it end with that conversation with Puppy? Did he just keep denying, or did he switch the subject, or did someone hold him to it?
He just kept squirming, and eventually the conversation has transitioned away. He just kept squirming and wouldn't be nailed down, and wouldn't. I wanted to ask him a straight up question, and of course that never was allowed. So anyway, it goes around and around in circles. Now they're just saying that's not our position. There's a geometric. It's always refracted. There's geometric, but it's refracted. It's just that kind of double speak.
Yeah. So they're arguing our position that it's optical.
Yeah, he wouldn't even come down and admit that. Like, it's an optical effect, right? I forget. I think maybe it's Babs or somebody. Maybe no, it was AI or somebody was saying about. So you're saying it's an optical effect, and he wouldn't even acknowledge that. It's like I think he knows the moment he does, he's over. It's over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a beautiful argument that QE put together, and it's bulletproof. You there, Righteous?
Yes.
Oh, so enthusiastic. I'm sweating and pushing a fever, and I'm more excited than you are. What's going on here?
Are you? So was Righteous a couple of days ago.
Yeah, I've been resting, but it's relapsing.
You any better, Righteous?
Oh yeah, much better.
Oh, I tell you guys, I was fighting it bad yesterday. I took the day off from work. I was absolutely miserable. Now I'm out trying to. I burned up some. I was trying to boil the bottles and destroyed about 6 of our bottles because I forgot them. I was so out of it yesterday. That's why I'm at the grocery store trying to get bottles. I was boiling it. It was hilarious. So.
I'm ill too, if it makes you feel better. I can't hear anything. My left ear's completely blocked up.
Hello, Adam.
Oh, hey, Adam.
Yeah, I destroyed a good pot and a bunch of bottles. It was pretty sad.
Yeah.
Hey,
Just don't do
hello.
it when you're
Sorry.
boiling eggs.
Go ahead, Mouse Tone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Go
Just
ahead.
a question. My 10-year-old daughter. Because we were speaking about what causes tides and gravity,
What
and
causes
she asked me,
time?
well, why
So what,
don't
do you say what causes
we
time?
try with a gravity?
But you said time.
Tides.
Oh, tides. Oh, my bad.
Yes. Yeah. And so she asked me, well, why don't we put a cup of water and see if the moon's gravity is gonna lift it up? So I don't know. Has anyone tested that?
Gravity's not a force.
I know.
It's not going to be lifting anything.
Okay, but I mean, how come? I mean, this seems so obvious. How come this I mean, how come at this point isn't there like someone who's tested that with a pool or
Test.
something,
Sorry, guys.
whatever?
Tested it. Okay. Yeah.
Can you hear me, Nave?
Hey, Adam. Good to have you.
I'm back. Sorry about that. Sorry for interrupting.
All right. You can't test concepts in that way. So if you imagine a two-dimensional world, like a cartoon, flat page. Now, if I say visualize yourself as a two-dimensional cartoon on a flat page. Now, while it might be possible for you to conceptualize yourself in a two-dimensional existence, it isn't something you could ever test. And likewise, in a fourth-dimensional conceptual medium known as space-time, you can imagine that conceptual medium, but you certainly can't in any way manipulate or test it. It's a concept. Like freedom or love. So can you bend love?
Are we on metaphysics?
We're talking about how you would
Wait. No, I get it. But let me
the question's
do
about the
some-
moon and
I'm
its
sorry.
pull.
I'm not very good at.
That's all right.
Sorry.
No, you're not doing anything wrong. But
I mean, modus tollens. So I mean, if the moon's gravity, whatever that is, lifts up the tides, then it's going to do the same for the water in my cup. It does not, therefore, probably no, it doesn't cause tides.
sure, but
Or
in
there's
your
no
in your
gravity, I
first
don't know.
statement, so you said gravity, whatever that is. Well, you've first got to answer that and define what gravity is. And what it is, currently, in the bullshit assertions of pseudoscience, is the bending of a conceptual medium.
Right, but it's not even. I mean, is it really causing the effect that it's supposed to do? I.e.,
no.
lifting up. I mean, do we? I mean, we're able we are able by this test to sort of deny the causality link between this thing there, the moon, and water moving, because we can put a cup of water and nothing happens, and then we see that
But that's not the effect of
causality,
gravity.
it does not exist.
Sure, but that's not the
Yeah,
effect of
exactly.
gravity. That's a 100-year-old, out-of-date assertion, falsely labelled as Newtonian gravity, which this isn't. Current rhetoric
Well, they
is
still
not.
teach it at school, but
Sure, but what they tell you, what they teach you about the current position of gravity is that it is definitely not a force, and the cause and effect relationship, if there were to be one, has already been asserted in the rhetoric of the conceptual medium. The effect is the bending of the conceptual medium known as space-time. The cause, according to them, is the uneven distribution of mass. So, according to their concept, there is no pulling up water as an effect. The effect is bending space-time, not lifting water.
Are they not claiming that it's lifting water?
No, they're saying it's not a force. The fact that the people in the trenches adhere to 100-year-old out-of-date rhetoric about it being a force is irrelevant. The current standard for pseudoscience bullshit about gravity is Einsteinian. Fourth dimensional
No, but
pseudo...
they do.
Go on.
Sorry. Yeah,
Go
I
on.
get it, but they do say that water moves, doesn't it? Don't they?
Who's saying that? Who says?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that current science did
No.
affirm that the moon's gravity caused tides.
As I say, if they can show you a diagram that asserts the moon is pulling it because it's bending a conceptual medium, you just need to ask yourself whether or not that's actual or conceptual. Now, they might say that gravity is a force. They do say that gravity is a force. But why do they say gravity is a force? Well, because they're told by their high priests that they can think of it as a force. Well, you can also, I'm telling you this, you can take this as read. You can think of it as a roast chicken. You can, if you want to. You can also think of it as a force or a unicorn or a sandcastle. But they say you can think of it as a force. It's not. At the really is level, it's not. That's what they'll tell you. So at the really is
Can I
level...
do the quote?
Yeah, go ahead.
But sorry, I wasn't discussing about that. But because I wasn't discussing the nature of gravity, but whether whether the moon's mass, whether it's via force or because of this curbing of space-time, whether this in any way lifts up water.
No.
And I think it's very easy to test the fact that it doesn't.
Okay. So, like when I was explaining earlier about Sleeping Warrior wanting to send a gyroscope to Australia, you can start with the premise and just formulate it logically. Your premise starts with this thing called gravity. Well, the first stage of formulation of logic is to define terms. What is gravity? So that's the first step of defining a logical syllogism. In this instance, what's gravity? Well, it's a concept. That's the end of the argument. Now, there's two camps.
Okay.
Anthony's camp, well, they say the force brings the water up. And I say, okay, let's see the cited source and the experiment that goes along with that assertion. And what you get is them telling you it's not a force. Again, the end of the argument.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we're all swindled with a equivocation fallacy. Two different definitions being used for the same thing. One is a force, one is not a force. It's the height of doublespeak, but they're used interchangeably for the same thing.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, let's say it's let's say the fact that things fall down or whatever is relative density disequilibrium. Sorry. And if I now assert this is what makes water, the tides, this is what causes tides, because
Maybe.
you could easily
Can you hold that thought? Because I'm going to start a live show.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. Now, we are joined by the Adam Meakin, Righteous Force, Paul Hall, Flatzoid, Chocolate Sane, and 10th Man, together with a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, hello.
Good morning.
Good afternoon. I missed the link.
Afternoon.
I missed the link. I've been waiting the whole time for it.
You've been sat around and it was already there.
The whole time I've been sitting, waiting and waiting.
You had to scroll up, Flatzoid.
In a very active chat in Flat Earth terms.
It's all Riley's fault.
What's he been talking about? Let's do it after housekeeping. Any signs of Earth curvature? Any signs at all?
No tangents at all.
No.
Only a refracted horizon.
I was coming to that. Any evidence of a physical geometric Earth curve edge?
Not after 2020.
That'll be
Any evidence
There's
of...
always atmosphere, correct?
There is always atmosphere, that's true.
So how do they observe a geometric horizon?
Don't know, they're all denying it at the moment, saying it doesn't exist and you can never view it. But then they extrapolate out that its position is based on geometry-based refraction that utilises the R value for the geometric horizon they don't have. It's all very confusing. Anyway, any evidence of axial rotation?
Nope.
You what, Adam?
That was just a straight no.
Oh, hey, Arwin.
Not of the Earth-based anyway.
There's no ranty around at the moment, so it's not of the Earth-based variety because no one's suggesting breasts or bums or anything of that nature. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Nope.
First, have to know what it is.
It's over there.
Over there. That's very helpful. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Nope. No claimed hypothesis, conceptions, mechanics, no physical proof. I'm getting a feedback here.
Not even the different nations work with each other.
That's your end, Darwin. There's no issue on the stream. Any single viable hypothesis for any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Unless we've had an update from
Gentlemen,
10.
I'm still watching Dr. Becky to see if she's going to bring forth a hypothesis. Just kidding.
Highly unlikely. She's a pseudoscientist.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you should invite her to the show one day.
For what? What's she going to give us? An admission that she's a pseudoscientist? We already know.
Well, who knows? Maybe she might be interested in my conceptualizations of the mistakes of space and how to correct it. Or maybe she'll totally freak out.
Maybe she'll put you on the payroll.
Oh dear.
Or is that what you're hoping for, Arwin? I could conceptualize this nonsense better than you.
Yes, I want to go to that office and let the computer
Arwin.
tell me I'm going to do science, man. I'm going to do science on those computers. It's going to be awesome.
There was a time, I remember, not in the too distant past, where Arwin was basically offering his services up to the fundamentalist religious zealots, essentially declaring that he could do a better job than they could, but he wouldn't tell them how unless they paid him.
Very reasonable, Owen.
Offer technically still stands. But with the conditions are pretty damn high, I don't think they're going to go for it unless they have no other choice.
Well, the rate they're going, Arwin, I think that could be about back end of next week before you get.
Well, I'll keep tabs on my bank account.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the center of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Nope.
No? Any evidence?
Maybe-
Go on.
No, I'm late to the last thing, but I was laughing about what Arvid said because I think he's got something. Maybe he could start a 1-800 help baller hotline and make some money when they get in trouble.
I'm trying to capitalise that at the moment. Share your pain, fundies. Any evidence the R value, Earth radius?
There is a way, isn't there, Nathan, to ease the pain for these funders, and that's just to console yourself by buying a horizon.
Yeah, smash the super chat if you want an apparent horizon. There's plenty available, infinite number, in fact. Last but by no means least, any evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container?
Oh, I had a whole discussion about this in my chat today. At the end of the show, you might have noticed, or not. About supposed rockets and their pressure, how it would work. And Professor Phil Bell kind of admitted to me, propulsion, doesn't technically work, but it just has its momentum. So then I put down, okay, so you claim that all these space missions, all these supposed explorations and satellites far off, they were basically just shot like a gun, and after it escapes the atmosphere, it can no longer correct its course, except by supposed orbital mechanics. You have to predict everything perfectly because you can't steer the thing. It's crazy. And that's still presupposing a lot, by the way.
Oh, that's all good. Conceptual's fine. Just have to think of it as being real. Just declare it, and apparently that makes it all okay. So big shout out to Dragonfly, who's going to get a horizon 41 pixels below the apparent horizon because it's her birthday. So happy birthday to you, Dragonfly. Thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate your support. Happy birthday to you. That concludes the housekeeping.
I would like to say there's only one Swan that rules them all.
Yeah, that's kind of not true, but I appreciate the gag. Maybe that's something we should cover. There's 4 layers to the onion that is what I'm going to call the weaponized Black Swan. And you'll understand why I'm calling it the weaponized Black Swan. That's the overall package. Starting point, layer 1, is the name of the formulation of the argument. Not the argument itself, the formulation. That's called modus tollens. The second layer is the argument itself, which is formulated into modus tollens. So if the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, then every distance to horizon measurement must be no more than 1.225 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Distance to horizon further than 1.225 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, therefore Earth is not a sphere. That formulation of that argument is the weaponized Black Swan. Now, alongside that modus tollens formulation of that argument, second layer, you have the third layer, which would be the analogy. The analogy is called the Black Swan. Can you mute your mic if you're not talking, please? I think it's Arwin. You're the only one not on mute. The formulation of the analogy is to assert that, based on physical geometry asserted in regards to the nature of our reality, it is asserted we have a geometric sphere beneath our feet. And that sphere has physicality. And its physicality, therefore, has physical limitations. Now, that assertion is analogous to a white swan. Most photographs being presented being, you come in a garden, this looks like it should be taking place on a sphere. Not the pictures we present. So that's your white swan. Then you have a demonstration of something that is to your average village idiot or somebody who hasn't experienced much of the world, a black swan, something that doesn't or wasn't considered to be the norm, presumed to not exist at all. Obviously, the Earth's a sphere and has its physical limitations based on its geometry. So as soon as you show something beyond that physical constraint of geometry, you have what we would analogize as a black swan. So that's layer number 3, the analogy. Noticed we've had 3 layers of this weaponized black swan argument, and we still haven't had any photographs discussed. In other words, you can give the argument, you can explain the logic, and you can give the analogy, black swan, without referencing anything, no pictures. Brings me nicely onto the 4th layer, the evidence that supports the logic. We have singled out a picture by BLMSB69 where it has demarcation points 4, 6 and 9 miles, with the horizon beyond. Therefore very easy to say the horizon is at this distance. That's why that has been chosen as the specific black swan. There are thousands. The Earth is obviously unobservably flat. Not too difficult to find examples of said fact and formulate them logically, which is what has been done. This was done on the 2nd of January 2020 by Quantum Eraser. Prior to that date, there were many black swans wandering around without anybody noticing them. And occasionally someone would pick them up and say, here you go, look at this bird. And people go, yeah, bird. They go, this bird proves it's flat. And they go, no, it doesn't. And the bird would get released and everyone would move on with their day. And then in 2020, it was formulated into a logical consistency, layer 1, called the weaponized black swan. And then offered up with an analogy, the black swan analogy, followed by evidence to support the logical consistency. So there is more than one layer to the argument that's currently being presented. Unfortunately, there are people on our own side that come across the evidence, see an image with a vague outline of the demonstration within the logical consistency, i.e. the distance to the platforms being laid out, etc., etc., and assume it's just like every other image presented in a similar fashion to date. They have no clue what the logical argument actually is, or the analogy and how it references black swans and white swans. So they say, I understand this argument, seen it all before, there's been loads of pictures like this, nothing's moved on. This is just a rehash of same old blah blah, we need to be doing something different. Well, those are the people that unfortunately ruined my weekend of joy, where everyone was getting the argument and smashing globe heads with it. Now it's at the point where people will declare, I understand this argument. It's old. No, it isn't. Clearly you don't understand the argument, or you'd repeat it at the very least to demonstrate why it wasn't valid, instead of just saying it's an old hat argument, which it most definitely is not. Nobody will show an example of where a modus tollens argument has been formulated with the physical horizon. That simply did not happen until Quantum Eraser did it. So, those of you who are claiming this is just some old argument rehashed, it is not. And the result of this argument, and all 4 layers, that being the logic, the argument, the analogy of a black swan, and the evidence that goes alongside it, are brand spanking new and being utilised to devastating effect, to the point where the people we argue with have to relinquish their own religion, i.e. the geometry I mentioned at the beginning of this long amble, i.e. their physicality of a sphere beneath your feet is what they defend by saying, we don't claim we have a physical geometric horizon. The very premise their religion is based on. That's how devastating this argument is. So, as always, and probably for the next 12 to 18 months, we're going to be sat here telling people, yeah, don't just whistle past this argument. Or if you do, whistle past it and don't make any noise. Another shout-outs to Good Servant. I feel happy about Nathan and the panel members. Well, that's good to know, Good Servant. I feel happy too. Thank you very much for the super chat. Also, Fat Bike Nomad. Share if you like ballers denying the physical horizon, or a physical horizon. Yeah, right on. Exactly. Share if you like hearing fundamentalist globe-tard religious zealots with a model based in physical sphere geometry telling you how non-physical and non-geometric everything is. It's wonderful. Please share the show.
How's the weather over there, Nathan?
crappy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Cloudy.
raining.
Right.
I said I still went swimming today. I say I went swimming, I didn't. I sat in a jacuzzi and watched my kid get a lesson. If I'm strictly accurate about what I actually did today. Normally I swim, it was just very busy. So I sat in the jacuzzi and did nothing. It was great.
Yeah, you got in the pool.
Yeah, I got in the pool, swam over to the lesson area, handed off my kid, swam back out, got in the jacuzzi. It's a relaxing time. Like I say, I said this yesterday. I don't imagine there's going to be tons and tons of fundies coming in to want to tell us how non-geometric the horizon is. No one wants to fall into that bear trap after a few people have done it already a couple of times. They all know what's in for them, so it's fine. The new obfuscation technique. That's all I see when I'm searching these terms to see what people are saying about it. Dare I say it, there does seem to be an element of jealousy amongst our own side. Don't know why. It makes no sense. Not my argument. QE's immediately handed it off to everyone else. The people who've got it and gone, well, I can just have this and just call it my own and use it to devastating effect. Mitchell from Australia, massive shout out to you. Just gets it, declares it. It's his argument now, as it bloody should be. If you understand it and can deal out a devastating blow with it, it's your argument.
Yep.
It's taking ownership of stuff rather than just poo-pooing it. It's far more easy to say, yeah, I got this ages ago. Load of old rubbish. We need to do something far more important. Rather than going, how does this argument work? Why is everyone making such a big deal about it? That's what Red Pill Philosophy does, coincidentally. You chatted with Mitchell from Australia about this very subject.
Because you know what you didn't have a couple years ago? You didn't have the Globers saying, we have never seen the geometric horizon, which is a necessity in their model. Right? We've never heard about 3 atmospheres, 5 atmospheres before this argument. So you got to ask yourself, why would all of a sudden now we have to talk about 3, 4, 5 horizons, and that we've never seen the horizon that we apparently can measure to with a calculator? What's going on?
Shout out to Alexander, who says, I'm going to buy a real black swan as a pet. I will use it to scare some globe-believing neighbours. Wink. Thanks for the super chat, Alexander.
I have heard the Globers. Oh, sorry, Wayne. I said I have heard. Oh, I said I have heard. I have heard the Globers say with refraction, you can still calculate where the geometric horizon is, as long as you know what the refraction index is or whatever. I'm going like, really? Okay, cool. How do you validate that if it's not visible, right?
Yeah, another checkmate. Precisely, Paul. Another checkmate. Emma UK, thank you very much for the super chat. Says, a moment of silence for the globe. It's gonna be a quiet week. It's like I say, I've geared myself up for it, so hopefully the conversation won't run too stale and there won't be too many sections of dead air. But like I say, I don't imagine there's going to be lots of people running to this show in this next week at least to come and defend the bullshit and declare they haven't got a geometric horizon. They're not going to want to do that. So just get used to a quiet week, I'm afraid, people.
Yeah, they're all hiding in their corners.
Yeah. Fighting amongst themselves, talking about non-issues.
I wonder how long it's going to take before somebody comes forth and says, yes, the horizon. Yeah, it's not a geometrical horizon, but you can think of it as a geometrical horizon. It's
already been said.
Thought experiment.
I was going to say it's already been
said. We
said.
were already told that.
I need to trim that out, so I will do that at some point. But yesterday, 10th Man just went through it all, cited Andrew Thomas Young in terms of the explanation. You essentially have to give geometric consideration. Paraphrased, you will assume physicality when performing a thought experiment with regards to the horizon. In other words, they're telling you like it is, assume this is a physical location.
What was the terminology? Geometric considerations. Was that what? Considerations for a concept.
Got some empty sentiment from the rumpus. Refuting the Black Swan argument is trivial. You and QE don't come out of your bunkers to be annihilated. Your misplaced confidence is delusional and hilarious. Oh, really? Well, then don't worry about it. Well, don't pay it any. Never mind then, rumpus. I wouldn't be too concerned then.
Wow, the apocalyptic
Rumpus.
fantasies here is pretty astounding.
Was it as funny as Rumpus saying, yes, we do have a geometric horizon? No, we don't. Yes, we do. That was you, Rumpus. That's what you sounded like. Would you like to come in here and tell us about it again? Because I'm cool for that.
I'm not. The guy's a liar. He's come in and barefaced lied to us.
Yeah, they're just lying to themselves. You've
Yes.
never argued that it was a physical geometric horizon. So full of shit, Rumpus. It's ridiculous.
Wishful thinking. That's really all it is. It's just wishful thinking. Yes, this is so trivial. I saw Planner Walk doing a debunk, and his opening was pretty much the same as Rumpus's. So many people have already smashed this into the ground, but I'll give it a cursory glance over anyway. You're like, yeah, wishful thinking, mate. I don't think so.
Planet Walk still needs to figure out what direction the Earth is spinning, supposedly, in his model, so he's got a long way to go.
Really?
Anybody in Discord got some pain to share?
This is so exciting, eh?
Shout out to Reinhardt D. Caroline Dispiri. Hopefully I haven't butchered that too badly. Globe is officially gone. Globers can now only respond word magic to us, as they cannot address any arguments, nor do they comprehend them. Greetings from Flat Earth Finland, GJ, QE, Nathan, and crew. Thank you very much for the super chat, Roundheart. Really appreciate your support.
Well, don't worry. The ballers in Discord can't understand how how some paths work from east to west. They think left to right to left. That's it.
Left to right, right to left. Isn't it?
That's all they know.
That's ridiculous. Well, technically, the Earth should be spinning counterclockwise if you look at it from the North Pole, as it were, and it were a ball. That's how it's supposed to be spinning, right? Because the sun rises in the east.
The point is, I can stand in one location, and how direction I'm in, I can make it go left to right or right to left in the exact same location.
And how do you do that, Flatsoy?
If you face north, sun always goes east to west, so right to left. Face south, goes east to west, so it'll be left to right.
Ah, so you mean just turn around?
Exactly.
Oh, there you go. Earth rotation debunked.
We familiarise ourselves with this non-issue.
No one claims the geometric horizon is where the apparent horizon is.
Sorry, we've only got one horizon. We don't have two horizons. We don't have an apparent horizon and a geometric horizon. We just have a horizon. It's just not geometric!
Correct.
So we don't have a geometric horizon on a sphere, Rumpus? And, by the way, the geometric horizon is apparent!
Mute.
Yeah, well then, welcome to Flat Earth. Your model of a sphere Earth requires a geometric horizon to obscure things in the distance, for boats to go over, and to bend at altitude. If you are now disclaiming that we do not have a geometric horizon, then we don't have Earth curve geometry.
I told you 2.5 years ago how this worked, and you didn't remember.
You've just made it plain we don't have a geometric horizon. So what geometric position, moron? You don't have one!
We do.
Oh, so now we do. Only 30 seconds ago, ladies and gentlemen, he made it plain we don't have a geometric horizon, and now we do.
No, we don't have a geometric horizon.
And now we do. We don't. Welcome to Flat Earth.
Do you realize how many times you've destroyed your own argument today?
So what geometric position, moron? You don't have one!
We do.
Oh, so now we do.
Correct, we don't have a geometric horizon.
So what geometric position, moron? You don't have one!
We do.
Oh, so now we do.
Correct, we don't have a geometric horizon.
Never gets old.
It really doesn't ever get old.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lies and Doublespeak told me to go back to the Isle of Man debate where he made plain that the horizon would loom above the horizon. It was made perfectly clear. Didn't take me very long to find one that basically disclaimed that things in the distance move with respect to the horizon by Rumpus's own definition of looming, which he's been told by Andrew Thomas Young is the incorrect historical term anyway. He's just got to use standard refraction. 7/6 of the radius value that gives you the geometric horizon that you don't have. Oh, well, that doesn't help you. Wow, you must have been really grateful for that conversation with Andrew Thomas Young, Rumpus.
Yeah, good job on flagging him, though.
Yeah, like all of them, Musa, same principle. He'll help me as he fight the flat earth in the eye with a compass. Oh well, so much for always being right, eh, Rumpus? Sometimes you're just historically wrong, and then can't seem to make up your mind whether we do or don't have a geometric horizon. But this isn't a problem. Clearly a non-issue. So much of a non-issue, they needed to go to Andrew Thomas Young, the alma mater of this bullshit. That's how much of a non-issue it was. Yeah, flag down the dude we're referencing. That's how much of a non-issue.
And then literally got their biggest argument, their biggest go-to argument taken away from them by him. That's gotta hurt.
He's babbling away, typing away like furiously because this is such a non-issue. Not at all triggered.
Oh,
no.
Rumpy.
Oh, non-issue. Why don't you get on with your day, mate? Why are you still in the chat? If this is so much of a non-issue, why are you parroting away your bullshit in the chat? Just get on with your day, mate. Just go and have a cake. Hey, Sleepy Warrior.
I've only joined to say one thing to Rumpus whilst he's in chat. Rumpus makes the claim that you can get a theodolite for about £30, take it to the beach, measure the dip angle, and calculate the radius of Earth when looking at the horizon. And I've asked him what horizon is he looking at when he measures the dip angle from horizontal. Now, he has to measure the radius of Earth, right? Or he has to calculate the radius of Earth. So he has to be doing it to the geometric horizon, right? But we know the horizon's not geometric. So what's that going to do to your measurements, your calculations, if you measure the dip angle to the apparent horizon, which could be bloody anywhere, Rumpus? So I'm going to challenge you again, Rumpus, to issue a retraction video where you tell everybody that you were 100% wrong about your claim of theodolites measuring the dip angle to the apparent horizon, because it does not allow you to calculate the radius of Earth at all, and you are incorrect. Look forward to seeing your video, Rumpus.
Good luck.
Well, Riley, I've asked Rumpus the same thing with my video. I haven't got a response to nothing.
Riley, if you can't measure the R value by doing the dip, then how do you calculate 7/6 off your refraction? Then?
You don't.
You just assume it.
You don't.
Oh.
If you don't have a geometric R value giving you a geometric horizon, then you're not going to get very far taking 7/6 of that R value that you don't have. But that's what they do. It's ludicrous. It's checkmate.
Yeah.
If you haven't got it, just assume it.
Yeah, you can just think of having a radius value because there are fundamentalist religious zealots out there that believe they're standing on a physical geometric sphere despite the fact of being a thought experiment.
Or you could assume that the R value will be the same as Venus's, measure that based on your previous assumptions.
Yeah.
But you still need a radius.
At the bottom of this little house of cards, the bottom card had a big letter R on it. And what's happened is we've yanked out that card with R written on it, and the whole deck of cards stacked, fallen down, flat. Flat as a pancake, flat as the earth we stand on.
And not only we took away that one, we've also took away things like gravity, because we know that's not a force, it's an effect according to your current science. Not that we're pushing Einsteinian science, Bob, from Globebusters. We're just trying to tell them what their science is telling people, because people in this topic tell people that gravity is a force. Well, the rest of mainstream science tells everybody else that gravity is an effect of the curvature of space-time. And guess what? We know what causes it. The uneven distribution of mass. But everybody like Simon Dan and Fight the Flat Girth tell people that gravity's still a force. It isn't a force. Even if you can think of it as one, it still isn't one because it can't cause anything. It's an effect on your model, but your model, the heliocentric model, is inconsistent with that, isn't it? And we've yanked that one away from you as well. And there's another couple of words that you're not allowed to use anymore, like gas pressure. Can't use that one anymore, can you? That requires a container and you haven't got one. What other words can't they use anymore, guys? I'm sure there's about 6.
Coriolis.
Oh yeah, Coriolis. You can't use that because that only applies to a rotating reference, a rotating something, and you got 2 frames of reference. You can't use Coriolis anymore. It doesn't exist. Come on, Nathan. You must know some more.
I was going to do a shout out actually. I'll wait till this little back and forth is over, and then I'll do my shout out.
I'm pretty much done. I just want to remind people that Rumpus was 100% wrong with his claim that a theodolite cannot allow him to calculate the radius of Earth because he's aiming it and measuring the dip angle to the apparent horizon. And the radius is obviously based on the geometric size, and they haven't got a geometric horizon. They tell us they have, but they can't see it.
Why is
so
that?
How are you going to measure it?
And why is that? Because apparently they've never seen the geometric horizon. So my question is, again, what the hell are we calculating for in the calculators? What's that for?
So Rumpus, has he drawn a tangent yet for me?
Yeah, you can't draw a tangent to an apparent horizon, can you, Rumpus?
Yeah, they can't trust in R anymore. In conclusion, where we declared previously that they could declare their trust in R and that would be all good, from there on in, there's no longer any trust that you can have in R. It's completely untenable. So, are you around, Adam?
Yeah. Sorry.
How many shows have you had on TFR?
What, the boys, really? Oh, 1.5, 2 a week. 100 odd.
100. Not bad. Better than I was expecting you to say, to be perfectly honest. One of your counterparts, Gyroscope, is celebrating his 200th weekly show. So Monday Night Raw, this Monday, is going to celebrate its 200th show. Now, considering it's a weekly show, that's a pretty monumental amount of time. So big shout out to Gyroscope for celebrating his 200th Raw on TFR Radio. Check it out. Very cool.
That's what's up. What, to 4 years then, isn't it?
It's a long old time. I remember him doing the first one.
Yeah, shout out, Jared. Wicked stuff.
Yeah, definitely a labour of love.
I think, yeah, these asked for a few messages as well. So I've been pondering that, mate, what to say, because he is a top bloke, is Jared, and I was lucky enough to get to meet him in Amsterdam, and yeah, good bloke to wander around the streets with. It was a genuine bloke. I do like Jared, and I think what he's done for the community, and like you say, that's one hell of a landmark, and a hell of a lot of people he's reaching. So shout out, mate. Respect.
Let me just address the Rumpus in chat. He says, Sleeping Warrior, in benign conditions and from high elevation, the apparent horizon is close to the geometric horizon. It is very easy. Doing observation from a mountain will do the same trick. We'll do the trick easy. Problem is, Rumpus, if you get above the clouds, say you stood on Everest at 30,000 feet, and you're well above the clouds, looking down on the clouds, right? You're looking down into a dense medium from a less dense medium, right? The horizon, aside from being below the clouds, is going to be lower than what it should be because you're looking through into a more dense layer of the gradient. That's still going to give you an apparent position of the horizon, and it isn't going to give you an actual one, is it? It's still going to be subject to the gradient that you are actually looking down into rather than looking through at the same gradient level when you're at the beach. So no, Rumpus, that won't work either on your model. Next.
Again, how would he even know if it was close to the geometric horizon if they've never seen it? Joke.
Remember that song? What the hell are we waiting for? We can reapply the words. We can say, what the hell are you calculating for? Because there's nothing there, guys.
There's no musicians in your family,
for
eh?
nothing.
Can't Rumpus come and talk of it?
It would be, what the hell are you measuring?
It's no fun anymore, is it? So just wait. Diddle-da, 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 diddle-da. Rumpus, we're back at a time where you can measure the horizon with theodolite. Come on.
Back in the day when it almost seemed plausible when you said you were 100% right. And now you seem to be proven 100% wrong 100% of the time. It's pretty tragic. Do you still say all horizons are apparent, Paul Driver? Yeah, by definition. Yeah, this idea of giving an extra word to something that is already by definition apparent is redundant. It's just what you fundies do because you need two now. So you've invented this extra one, the apparent horizon, which is also defined as the geometric horizon by definition. So your horizon is also apparent. A geometric horizon is apparent based on height. That's why you fundy spend so much time analysing the height of stuff, because that is how your apparent position is formed, where the physical geometric edge of the sphere appears to meet the sky. Now, obviously, the ground doesn't touch the sky. Obviously, it's just apparent. It's still physical and geometric in your maths, though. You just don't get it, Paul. You fundy idiot.
One.
Go on, Plattside.
One question: Did Aristophanes ever account for refraction in his so-called experiment that's not experiment?
I don't know. I never met him. Anybody else hear me?
Because there's always atmosphere, so I'm just wondering.
Them giving up geometry, it means everything crumbles around them. There isn't many examples you'll find around the assertion that we're standing on a physical sphere that won't fall apart when they relinquish their geometry and suddenly start talking about how stuff's apparent. Apart from the sizes and physicality of their geometric myths that they've been using for the last 5 years, that's still the same. The physical geometric assertions they make about the physical sphere we're supposed to be standing on, they'll always remain the same. The fact that they say, oh, we don't assert that we've got a physical horizon. All right. No boats going over it, not bending into a circle at altitude, not obscuring the Isle of Man and the beach. No, you didn't argue that. Yeah, we know you did. We've got it all on record. You bunch of liars. It's just your model falling about around you and you lying your heads off to try and prevent it happening. It's great.
That's just my point. How do you work out the radius using light if you don't take refraction into account?
Hold up, Nath. I'm just checking chat, mate, and I think we could be getting a bit cocky here. I'm just going to let this comment go from Wheelie Slots. Soon we will have space travel to the public, and when that happens, you will all be made to look stupid. Just
wow.
Maybe hold the confidence, guys, because.
How about whoever that was? Let us know when that happens, and we'll get back to him.
Sure, that's a
Shouldn't we
fallacy.
have that by now?
Isn't that
Shouldn't
a
that be
fallacy?
holiday on the moon.
Isn't that appeal to the future fallacy or something similar? I can't remember the exact term for it, but that is a fallacy.
Richard Branson fallacy.
Yeah, the Richard Branson / SpaceX / anybody else who's claimed that they're going to be taking private enterprise into the second law of thermodynamics sky vacuum, which can't possibly exist.
You can get an answer for the radius of the Earth within a few % of the correct answer by measuring the dip angle. If that was true, Rumpus, on that oil platforms, you know, the one where we've got quite good visibility and the horizon's way beyond the platforms. If you measure the dip angle to the apparent horizon on that, it would be like 10 times bigger than Jupiter or something like that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would.
How would you work that out with your claim that you can use a theodolite to calculate the radius of Earth based on the dip angle when you're not measuring the dip angle to the actual geometric horizon, you fool?
Yeah, give us the percentage between what you claim is the actual physical geometry that you're within a few % of and that black swan image. I wonder if that's within a few %. I think you're just lying, Rumpus. That or you're stupid. Hold on, let me berate him. Either you're stupid or you can't do maths. Or you're lying. So, stupid maths failure. You think that black swan horizon's within a few %? You complete idiot. Oh, go and learn maths, you moron. That's not within a couple of %, you stupid idiot. It's so way beyond your geometric certitude and physicality that you need. It's beyond a joke. Go and learn maths, moron.
Hey, Rumpus, I've got a challenge for you. If you claim that the theodolite could get it within a few %, demonstrate the percentage based on that black swan's photo of the dip angle to the horizon, and let us know that the actual distance. You could backwards calculate the maths. Tell us what the dip angle would be, given them where the horizon appears to be behind the platforms, and then tell us how big the Earth should be based on that measurement. Shout out to Jupiter.
He says he won't. He wouldn't do it in such conditions. Why not? So what? It's not that accurate on those conditions. So any other day that it's within the parameters you need it to be, it'll be within a couple of %. That sounds like cherry picking.
Wait, I thought nobody understood refraction like Rumpus.
Texas sharpshooter, basically. Yeah, put the ring around the grouping that best suits you to be a good shot. Right? So not going to take that measurement. What? Because it wouldn't be within a couple of %, you lying bastard. Yeah, we know. Texas sharpshooter fallacy. Only take the measurements that are conducive with your geometric reification, rather than the ones that we're showing you that don't match, and suddenly the conditions aren't conducive. Yeah, Texas sharpshooter, mate.
You're not shooting very sharply.
I don't have the gun loaded.
Yeah, they're firing off blanks left and right. In fact, not only are they firing off blanks, they're firing off blanks that are backfiring the shell back into their faces. Well, that was fun. I quite enjoyed berating Rumpus.
We do.
Oh, so now we do.
Correct. We don't have a geometric horizon.
That's right.
I love it. I love it when it just comes out of nowhere. We do.
So what geometric position, moron? You don't have one.
We do.
Oh, so now we do.
Correct. We don't have a geometric horizon.
It never gets old.
In the same breath.
In the same breath.
What's great is he says, you say, so now we do. Directly after that, he says, correct. So we don't have one. like, are they even paying attention to the words that come out of their mouth?
Does not compute. Does not compute. Fire off sparks, smoke coming out of the machine. That's what's happening.
Remember, chocolate. Air is not atmosphere.
Yeah, air is not the atmosphere. Second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply to the Earth. Yeah, Rumpus, you're just full of hits, bro. Keep him coming.
So, Anthony. And
yes.
Can we continue the conversation we had before I went swimming?
What was that? Oh, gyroscopes.
Yeah.
Okay, so where do you want to start?
I want to start where I assume the outcome you're trying to achieve by sending a gyroscope to Australia, which is to say that I would automatically give them their assertion that it is drifting, regardless of what the mechanics or optics or whatever is being used in the gyro is. I would say immediately give them the concession. In other words, take it at face value that they assert Earth has Coriolis effect, which is what is being demonstrated in a pendulum or gyroscope if they claim it drifts. That drift is asserted to be the cause thereof is Earth turning underneath the fixed frame or the swinging frame of a gyro or pendulum. So if you take that assertion as the first starting point, so we have a demonstrated or claimed demonstrated effect of Coriolis. If Earth is spinning underneath the fixed frame of the gyro or the pendulum, then it also must rotate underneath anything that leaves the frame of reference that is claimed to be the spinning Earth. Ergo, you must have deviation in drones, helicopters, planes, anything else that leaves the non-inertial spinning reference frame. If you've got Coriolis, or to put it another way, if you've got Coriolis effect, you've got Coriolis effect, and you must have Coriolis effect. We don't, though. This is all laid out by Brian Mullen.
Background.
Again?
We need a bit of background test. It comes from Stefan from FE Core's Gyroscope. And basically what he wanted to do was demonstrate whether or not Earth turned. And he needs to send it over to Australia to rule out the fact that the possibility that the drift that he thinks he's measuring or observing is actually being caused by the gyroscope itself. And he doesn't want to do it. But it would be the ideal opportunity to prove how brilliant his gyroscope is, because if it did actually turn backwards the way that it should do, if it's upside down relative to where it was when he tested it in Austria, then at least it proves that it's not within the gyroscope itself. Doesn't prove what is doing it, but it does prove what's not. In other words, the gyroscope itself. And he still doesn't want to do it. Just trying to persuade him to get on a plane and take it manually himself. But
well, if he understands the argument, which I believe I laid out to him on Globebusters, personally, he was there, then he would understand that doing that would be futile. All it would do is assess the quality of his gyroscope. That's all it would do. In other words, I'm more than happy to say, yeah, okay, you say that a gyro spinning in its fixed plane of reference has the mechanism that's attached to it move because Earth's moving underneath. That's what they claim. Or, in the case of the Foucault pendulum, the pendulum swings back and forth, straight, line, back, forth, but because Earth's rotating underneath, it knocks over the little dominoes. So you've got a Coriolis effect. Well, if you've got a Coriolis effect because Earth's rotating underneath, it's always going to demonstrate that. Fait accompli, it must. So, without having anything else that's actually demonstrating Coriolis effect, especially things with a large hang time, the assertion that you're trying to prove or disprove by way of utilising a begging the question fallacy, if Earth is turning, formulating and affirming the consequent, which is to say, if I observe my Earth turn in the gyro, then I've got Earth turn, affirming the consequent, logical fallacy, and you're saying I can disprove the premise which is already fallacious by disproving that it doesn't drift. But the premise it's based on is fallacious to begin with. So it is completely futile. Pointless.
Well, it's only futile from that perspective. The perspective where it's not futile is Stefan's perspective, which is that it is measuring drift. And I would say, well, what's it measuring drift of, Stefan? And he thinks it's either ether or Earth, but he doesn't think it's his gyro. Now, I'm not saying in any way that his gyroscope's defective or crap or anything like that. What I'm saying is, at least if he sent it over to Australia and see what happens if he put it there, he would be able to rule out his gyro, and he would be able to confirm it's one or the other, ether turn or something else, or earth turn or whatever, because it would do the opposite in Australia.
Why would it?
He doesn't want to do that.
Why would it? Because you've based this on a fallacious premise.
No, because I based it on his assertion that it's measuring drift.
Well,
and I say, what? And he doesn't consider that his gyro might not be the thing causing it.
Okay, I'll start out where we had this conversation earlier. You say drift, and the gyro does drift. I've watched his video. So the gyroscope drifts. That's wonderful. So what? Oh, what's that you say? If I assume Earth's causing it, and I send it to Australia to disprove it, but disprove what? Your assumption that you made at the beginning of that statement before we just had gyro drifting.
No. To disprove his belief that it's measuring drift of something that he thinks is not within the gyroscope itself. There's three causes, right? Maybe Earth's turning, maybe something else is, or maybe the gyroscope's causing it for some other unknown mechanical or engineering reason, who knows. But to rule out the fact that the gyro might be causing it internally within the structure, send it to Australia and see what it does. If it goes backwards, it's not the gyro that's causing it, something else is. But if it goes the same as it does in Austria, then it means that the gyro's causing it, because anything else is not influencing it.
I heard this morning, I heard this both times. But what I'm saying is clearly falling on deaf ears. So I think we'll just draw this conversation to a close. We'll have this conversation again. I know you're getting into Coriolis, and hopefully, because I'm holding my head right now. I mean, literally, because I hate the subject. If I can offload it on you, my God, I'd love to. Coriolis is a horrible subject to argue. You're laughing because you offloaded it on me.
What are you talking about? Just come in. What do you want?
Coriolis is evil. It is
Coriolis is evil. Yeah.
Coriolis effect. If I just say, start quote, Coriolis effect, end quote. That is really simple. Really, really simple. It's an observation of an apparent deviation because you remain on a non-inertial spinning reference frame and something leaves it. That's Coriolis effect. It's really straightforward. But as soon as you have fundamentalist religious zealots that have an Earth that's not demonstrating any Coriolis deviation whatsoever, asserting that mechanical instruments they've produced in the form of gyros and pendulums show this effect that's not experienced anywhere on Earth ever, suddenly we've got to justify why the machine does or doesn't have the effect that we never experience on Earth ever. And argue about why we don't experience the effect ever if we're in argument with fundies. Like, the whole premise of this argument is that we definitely have a Coriolis effect, and therefore it would definitely be observable. It's modus ponens. If P then Q, P therefore Q. If Earth's turning, we'll have a Coriolis effect. Earth's turning, so we've got a Coriolis effect. What's that? We don't. Okay. Well, then we don't have a Coriolis effect. Because we must if we do, and we don't. So we haven't. We're not turning.
But we do.
But we do. The reason we don't see it in a helicopter is because Earth and an atmosphere are velcroed together, even though there's no intermolecular bonds between any of the gas particles. It's not attached to Earth in any way, shape or form, and you haven't got a force that's attaching them. But either way, that's why we don't have the effects that we're supposed to be arguing to prove Earth spins. So let's argue for the next 20 minutes about why we don't have Coriolis effect, and what's causing us not to have this effect that's supposed to prove we spin. Yeah, that sounds like a fun argument.
Or we could just measure it.
Measure what?
Well, let me give you an example. So I measured my table, the leg on my table. So how do I know I didn't measure my neighbor's dog's leg?
You've got the
This
table
is
leg
the
in your
level
hand.
that we're at here.
Stupid.
It's a different kind of measurement.
This
How are
is
you
the
gonna measure?
level the ballers' arguments are, folks.
Yeah,
Listen
this
up.
That's basically what you guys are saying.
No, we're not.
Did you really just say if I measure my table, how do I know I didn't measure my neighbor's dog's leg? Bro, are you smoking something?
Yeah, I mean, so Bob Knodel took a measurement of an object affixed
Bro, go
to
have
Earth.
a coffee or something, man.
And what you're saying
Like,
is,
seriously.
how do we know
Come back
he
with
didn't take the
something.
measurement of the affixed object on Earth and it wasn't the measurement of something else? That's
Okay, let me tell
exactly
you.
what you're saying.
I'll tell you. So, if, as you are asserting, the measurement that was performed in the fiber optic gyro was a 15-degree deviation because Earth rotated underneath the fiber optic gyro in its fixed reference frame. That would be your assertion.
No, it's attached there.
I hadn't finished. My bad. Is your attention span that short? No worries.
Well, you missed
give
that.
up. I give up. Interrupting me. I'm asking sarcastically if his attention span's that short, and he demonstrates it absolutely is. So you're too stupid to understand this. You can't help but talk when I'm halfway through an explanation.
You stated it properly, Nathan.
I repeated your claim. All I did so far was repeat your claim that Bob Knodel proved Earth spins and explain to the audience how that assertion is made. That's all I've done. And before I'm finished debunking it, you're interrupting me. Like now. So you're too dumb to even accept me summarising your batshit crazy position. You won't even let me do that without interruption. Let alone debunk it, which I can if you'd let me. But you won't. You'll squirm like you're doing now. Because you're a squirming little fundy that's probably heard me debunk it multiple times. And you know what's coming. That's why you're talking.
You're building a straw man, Nathan.
I haven't done anything. I've summarised your point. I haven't done anything except summarise your point. Is your point a straw man?
You said that the Earth was
This is
rotating
pathetic.
underneath.
I haven't done anything. I've summarised his bloody
This
point.
is all you
And now
got.
he's got verbal diarrhea. I've done nothing but summarise your point, you moron.
Okay, as long as we understand that the gyro was affixed to Earth, it wasn't rotating underneath it.
Sorry, what's deviating at 15 degrees an hour?
The Earth rotates at about 15 degrees per hour, Nathan.
That's what I just said. Your assertion in the gyro is that Earth rotates underneath. That was my summary of your position. Now I'm going to debunk it. Shut the fuck up! Shut up! If Earth rotates...
No, thank you.
See, these bastards, right? I've just got 2 words out of my debunking. All I've done is summarise his stupid position that claims a gyro proves Earth turns underneath. That's all I've done. I've got 3 words out of my debunking. He's interrupting me. Because these bastards know what's coming. They know I'm going to annihilate his position, but he won't accept me actually speaking, let alone tolerate the full rendition of the debunking. That's why he's talking now. I'm pointing out that you bastards do not want to listen to the debunking. You want to call my summary of your position a straw man before I've even debunked it. You don't even realise when I'm summarising your position rather than actually smashing it to pieces. Now, with 1 minute left, I'm going to debunk it. If Earth is rotating underneath the fixed frame of a gyro at 15 degrees an hour, as asserted by this moron, then it's also rotating underneath aeroplanes, drones, or anything that leaves the non-inertial spinning reference frame. Now, while I've calmly and concisely said this, I know for a fact that an orthodox is talking through me the entire time I'm saying it because I'm watching his line. So I know I'm going to round the show out. I've got to close the lines down to round the show out. But an orthodox thinks in his stupid fuckwittery that he can talk through this debunking because that's his only technique to obfuscate the point. He won't let me point out that Earth would also rotate underneath anything else that's not in the non-inertial spinning reference frame, a la the gyroscope. That's not in the spinning reference frame, not attached. It's spinning in free space. Gyros don't move, that's their point. But the gimbal's attached and Earth's rotating underneath the gyroscope because the gyroscope's demonstrating 2 separate reference frames, a Coriolis deviation of 15 degrees an hour. If you've got a Coriolis deviation in a gyro, you're also going to have it in anything that leaves the non-inertial spinning reference frame, like a ball, like a bullet, like a plane, like a drone, like a helicopter, or anything else that leaves. That must also have Earth rotating underneath it. It doesn't, because if it did, any plane that was travelling east, like a flight from Charlotte, North Carolina to LA, would be reduced from 4.5 hours down to about an hour and a half, because Earth's rotating underneath, as claimed by the gyroscope. We don't observe planes with reduced flight times and not reaching their destinations when travelling west near the equator because of the vast speeds of the Earth rotating underneath. We don't experience that. We don't have a Coriolis deviation. And no matter how many times you try and talk through me, Unorthodox, I've closed your line, you stupid moron. And with that, I'll say if you're watching this on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you're watching this live on the Nathan Oakley 1980 channel, this is where I bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Also, of course, massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels for making the live show possible. Stay tuned if you're watching on Nathan Oakley premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
You so many times on my channel that I think I got a playlist just for you. You're a moron. Dunning-Kruger slobbering moron. And you have no honor. You don't even know it. You're that delusional.
Yeah, total bastard.
Listen to your retard mouth. You're full pants on the head retard, son.
Yeah, out of order. As soon as I get to actually debunking the position, he talks through every word. Basically, they come here to ask you a question, get to the point where it's summarised that a gyro is proving Earth turns underneath, then talk non-stop over every word that debunks it. That was his decision. That's what he was going to do. See you later, Flatzoid.
Yeah, he always does it. I'm sick of his retarded mouth. Go back to Romper Room. Go to Gem Panda server. You friggin' clown. How many times we got to expose you? You've been exposed more times than Mae West. You have no shame. You have no honor. You're delusional. Get help.
Nathan, hey everybody.
Go on, Brian. Sorry. Welcome, by the way.
No, thanks. Say hello. They're always coming out with this thing about Bob measured this drift, this nonsense. It's like, what did they see in this documentary? They saw a video of what a fiber optic gyroscope and a ring laser gyroscope looked like. They just showed, I think it was just a ring laser they showed. And they heard Bob say something. And today, that's it. Proven experiment. Do you know what I mean? Like, what did they see in this documentary? No, they keep coming up with this nonsense. It's like, this is what they're hanging on to.
It's not an experiment.
Oh, I know it's not, but this is what their data is out. All they saw was a video of a gyroscope and heard Bob say that he measured drift. That's it.
So my question would be, who proved the rotation before Bob? If he did that, who did it before him?
Somebody's got feedback in Discord. You Quantum Eraser. Hear speakers.
Nah, can't be.
Yes, it is. I can see your light flashing.
It is.
My light's not flashing. Yeah, it is.
Anyway.
Exactly, Chocolate. Who actually originally proved this out to be rotating?
Yeah, I mean, you would think they would have another name that they could just spew out the way they do Bob, right?
Yeah.
So who did it before Bob? Who confirmed that? Why do you Globers hang on to some flat earther who supposedly did something?
I'll tell you why.
Where's your guys?
I'll tell you why. Because it's a magic trick. It's a powerful magic trick, which I utilised recently. So, if your opponent... If my assertion is, look, Earth's obviously inobservably flat, and therefore it doesn't really matter which photo you go to, they're all showing the same thing. It's obviously not spherical. There's lots of assertional problems with that reification. So therefore, it's easy enough to go out and find evidence that you need in our opponent's evidence. Like National Geographic, for example, who have an excellent capture of a black swan. Well, that's because Earth's obviously unobservably flat, and you're going to inadvertently catch images that demonstrate it to be so when you aren't intending to. Because it is what it is, right? So it's far more powerful for me to present National Geographic's evidence as my own and point out just how flat it is based on their evidence. And that's what Netflix did. They've taken Bob Knodel's assertion. The assumption in the magic trick is you're never going to get to prove it's not spinning, and any attempt to prove it's not spinning will ultimately result in you just proving it spins, which is what was shown. So it's just a crudely constructed magic trick. Use your opponent's evidence.
I get it. It's like the hostile witness, right? Which I get. I get that concept. But what I'm saying is, on their side, who do they hold up in the same light and say, we have this guy that proved the rotation?
Foucault.
Where's that guy at?
Foucault.
That's what I'm saying.
Foucault.
Oh, wow. Okay. With a pendulum.
And a gyro.
Oh. All right.
All Bob Knodel, all he's done is expand on Foucault's experiment. That's all he's doing. Not that it is an experiment, but that's what it was deemed. Just a grandiose version of the same thing.
What's interesting about the Bob Knodel point is that for all the things that Bob may get wrong that we jump on, when he gets something that's not wrong, we'll defend him. And on this occasion, he didn't get that wrong. He didn't know how to get out of it, but he didn't get it wrong, so we will defend him because he didn't fuck up. Unlike the gravimeters, where he did fuck up. But on the gyroscopes one, we'll defend him, and rightly so, because he didn't do anything wrong.
What are you talking about? He presented their affirming the consequent argument, and then proved it.
No, he didn't. He didn't prove anything. He didn't touch it, so he didn't do anything. And the person that did touch it didn't manipulate the independent variable to prove the cause and effect relationship. So I will defend Bob on that point.
Okay, he went on camera and said, if Earth's spinning, we'll see deviation in this gyroscope. So he begged the question and affirmed the consequent, and then offered a demonstration to prove the logical fallacy is true.
I can't remember exactly. I mean, if you're quoting him verbatim and said that, then that changes my perception a little bit, but it doesn't change the position that he didn't prove Earth turn. Which
Go
is
and
the
watch
point
the
that I want
Netflix
everyone.
bit that all the fundies trimmed out if you want reminding. Go and listen to it, where he sits in front of the camera and they show a depictorial example of what he's saying in the form of him directly claiming, if Earth is spinning, we will see 15 degrees an hour drift in this gyroscope. Now, the conclusion of that affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy is done by demonstration. We do see 15-degree deviation, but it's not actually Earth turn. Well, by then he's already fallen into his own trap because he's declared it as so. Well, that was his bad. That was something that needed to be addressed. That's why I got involved. He's begged the question on their behalf.
I don't actually remember, but if that's what you say, then I'll take that on face value. But
Just take it on face value. It's just a fact. Just watch the Netflix piece where he specifically says it. But the point here is that if you're going to try and formulate... This is why I'm defending QE so much at the moment with the Black Swan. When you beg the question and you're in the opposite position, I've forgotten what the word I need is, you're in the contrasting position, but you're begging the question with their argument. You've got to be really careful that you don't get it wrong. Because if you do, that's what you end up with. Now, Bob got it wrong, begged the question, and said, if this is their argument, this will hold true. We won't see a 15-degree deviation because it's not spinning. Well, he begged the question and got it wrong and paid a very, very heavy price for it. Well, by the same token, the same gamble could be said for the modus tollens argument with the Black Swan, or the weaponized Black Swan. Because he's doing the same thing. He's working within the parameters of their logical fallacy. Well, if you get that wrong, it's so easy to take the first statement, like just happened, literally. take the first statement, only let the first statement out, rumpus the crap out of the debunking where the second statement doesn't hold true, or debunks the first statement, in the case of modus tollens. Well, all an orthodox was trying to do is get the first assertion in. If Earth's spinning, we'll see 15 degrees deviation in a gyro. At that point, don't let any other things reach the airwaves, because then all the audience is left with, and him, because he's trying to kid himself, that's all this is, he's left with that as the end result of the argument. Don't let anything else come through. Well, in the case of Bob Knodel, he asserts, if Earth is spinning, 15-degree deviation. And then what does he show? 15-degree deviation. What's the conclusion left in the mind of the audience, despite any contrary conclusions he draws thereafter? Well, like I say, you could have any... If the Black Swan argument had gone wrong, they would have said, well, if Earth is a sphere, well, obviously we're starting with that premise then, and we'll just latch onto that from now on. It could have gone horribly wrong. So it's a big gamble. Go on, sorry.
Why that we should correctly defend the guy on the basis that we correctly apply scientific method and point out that nobody manipulated the presumed cause to prove the causation element of the claim. So by defending Bob, we reassert scientific method and we basically get him off the hook for something that he didn't actually get wrong. All right, he was wrong with how he phrased it, but he didn't prove Earth curve. So by correcting it, we get him off that claim. But then when he goes and does it with gravimeters, we might as well just leave him out on the hook.
I understand. I see what you're saying. What you're saying is, upon disproving the assertion of Coriolis drift being the 15-degree deviation, you essentially debunk any assertion that was made by Bob, incorrectly so, on Netflix. So yeah, it gets him out of jail. No, you haven't proved Earth spins. If Earth spins, helicopters and drones would deviate. So would balls, so would bullets. But the things with the longest hang time would have the greatest deviation at the same rate that is being claimed by the gyro, by the Netflix people. Well, if you're going to have that deviation demonstrated in the gyro, you've got to have it always applicable in every other circumstance where something leaves the non-inertial spinning ball Earth reference frame. We don't experience it ever, so yeah, that puts him off the hook. He's not proving Earth spinning.
Yeah, but if he does it again with gravimeters, leave him on the hook and let him get eaten by the vultures.
Nobody wants to see that. Bob's very influential in this. What?
No, I do. If he doesn't learn the first time after being corrected very publicly by you on his show, and then he goes and does it again, and still doesn't realise, what are we left with doing other than leaving him out on the hook?
Well, no. My point is, when it came to the Netflix presentation, that had a huge influence on a lot of people. Therefore, it needed addressing, in my view. When it comes to other assertions made in the comfort of his own show, or whatever you want to phrase it, then that's up to him. It's no harm, no foul if he's doing what he wants to do with his audience. It's YouTube, right? He can do what he likes. Now, I'm not saying that he couldn't do what he likes on Netflix. It's just been edited and revealed in a way that was very, very devastating to our argument. Especially as...
Hang on. You're applying a double standard there to Bob. You're letting him say what he wants on his show, but you'll jump all over unorthodox when he begs the question to assert what he believes.
It's on my show. That's here. That's here. I thought you were saying double standards in terms of me saying on the one hand, if he's reaching a massive audience, then he needs addressing, whereas if he's just reaching his own audience, who cares? But by the same token, I'm saying, well, no, we shouldn't leave him out to dry. You know, if you are in a position to correct him, you should. Well, that is a double standard.
Yeah, but you did do that, and he sliced your head off for it, and he didn't learn by that error. He did it again with gravimeters. I'm not as sympathetic on the gravimeters point.
Yeah, but nobody's coming in here and telling us that Bob proved gravity with gravimeters on his show.
Exactly.
No, I know.
They are, like, as been exampled by unorthodox, will come in here and say he proved rotation of the Earth with a gyro.
Exactly.
That's the difference.
Exactly.
I know, but the difference with gravimeters is Bob thinks that gravimeters are proving gravity, his own special, unique interpretation of gravity.
Yeah, but that's not our problem.
Let me prove you wrong.
That's Bob's issue.
Yes,
because
exactly.
people aren't coming at us with that.
Exactly. Let me just prove you wrong, Anthony. Hands up. I'll be the first to put my hands up. My hands in the air. Anybody who didn't have the slightest idea that there was any issue with gravimeters and Bob, hands up. by a show of names, say aye if you had no clue this was even an issue.
Could you rephrase the question again?
Did you have any clue there was some sort of issue with gravimeters?
What do you mean? Sorry, I don't get it. With Bob.
I think that's a firm.
I think that proves
that's
the
a
point.
firm
Right
no.
there.
That's a firm no from you there, Brian. Thank you.
What point that question proves is that nobody watches Globebusters here.
What?
Because if you did watch
Yeah, but
Globebusters,
that's my point.
you would be acutely aware that you think gravimeters are proving something.
Riley, I'd probably say I did, because I was when I went on that Ash News McToon question and answer session. McToon brought up gravimeters, and I watch Globebusters and I'm aware of it, and so my response, I do. Bob's not using a gravimeter to justify either Newtonian or Einsteinian. He's using it to say, in his interpretation of how electromagnetic fields may play a part, the gravimeter, where we are, and what you can't deny is that this thing is basically a drop machine, a dropsy machine.
Hang on. This is where you've got to be really clear.
Demonstrate is some variance. So what they're suggesting there is that the electro and magnetic effects, which do vary at different places across the Earth, are the causation of these slight variance. It's not. I don't think in any way it's being suggested that it's in relation to mass or warping of space-time. It's
No. This is where you've got to be really clear with what you say that you think Bob's claim is. Bob's claim is that gravimeters are proving that there is a, quote, downwards acceleration, something that denotes the initial bias, right? That's his claim. End of quote. Well, okay, what is that thing that it's measuring, Bob? And he says, well, you can call it gravity if you want, or you can call it electromagnetic or whatever. And he gets all flustered and he starts mumbling his words, but he still thinks that gravimeters are proving that there's some downwards acceleration of some kind, be it gravity or otherwise. And I'm like, Bob, what is it measuring?
It shows that the things vary slightly at their rate of fall at different places on the Earth. That's what it shows. To draw any inference from that device itself is an impossibility. It does what it says on the tin, really, which is it measures the rate of something falling, and that
but that doesn't indicate a downwards acceleration. Something the way Bob thinks it does or claims it does. That's the point. What he's doing is he's rightly pointing out that there are fluctuations of something, but he thinks the fluctuations are based around a general down position based on some electromagnetic force of some kind.
The gravimeter.
To discuss this, because I can only grasp what I know there. The thing that like what with the dropping of magnets and stuff, that's the cause, is to see if magnetics has any effect on that. It's not to suggest that it is an overreaching force or to interfere with Newtonian or Einsteinian.
I'm not saying that. I'm not misrepresenting his words.
That's what I mean, but I can't comment on Bob's direct position on all the detail on how he sees it, because.
Well, I can. I'll stand to be quoted. Bob thinks that gravimeters are proving a downwards acceleration something, and he thinks it might be gravity, and call it what you will. There is definitely something that's initiating that initial bias, and he does not, and I quote, he does not accept, when I did my relative density test with the egg, he does not accept that when I did something with that mass, that salt, he does not accept that caused that egg to move, even though he literally sees it. So he dismisses my demonstration of the movement caused by changing the density, and he accepts the gravimeters are doing something else that's causing that initial bias, and I say, bullshit!
Experiment.
The gravimeter.
I don't often get to correct this way round. You mean experiment?
What did I say?
Demonstration.
Sorry, yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
I wasn't valid an experiment because I did it properly.
Shout it from the rooftops.
Yeah. It pisses me off, Nathan, because what he's trying to do is negate the fact that the egg moved caused by me manipulating something, which was within scientific method, because he wants there to be that initial push, that initial movement to be electromagnetic in nature, even though I manipulated something and proved that something moved, right? And I didn't do anything other than manipulate the density of the medium, but he wants there to be something else. And I'm like, bullshit, Bob. So,
the worst
Bob, if
part
you
is-
listen to this, demonstrate your claim, idiot.
And it moved up, opposite of his
yeah.
downward acceleration. So that's, I don't know. That's what I just don't get.
Well, hold on, chocolate. Earlier on, chocolate, you said, well, you don't get it because you agreed with my point, which is kind of who cares? That's just one individual doing his thing on his YouTube channel, and that's YouTube, right? As opposed to hordes of people coming saying, "Ha Earth's been proven," you know. So, other than a tit for tat with somebody denying experimental data, what exactly is in it? What's the point of this other than? And I'm not saying you're having an internal feud or saying this is personal. Don't take it as those that I'm asking you in regards to. I'm just saying, what are you trying to achieve? I'll just expand on it a little bit. I will give you a chance to respond. Given that we're fighting the big bad current rhetoric, no offense to Bob, who cares?
Are you asking chocolate?
It kind of asking chocolate, because chocolate earlier was saying, well, I agree, it's like, it's no big deal what one dude does and his audience, and whether or not they accept what he says is kind of inconsequential here, compared to a mainstream opinion being reinforced. Go on.
The context is that Bob claims he's doing science, and he's not. He's speculating wildly as to causes that he's not manipulated to prove cause, and he wants to speculate because he wants to be a bit dreamy, a bit wizardy. No offense, Arwin, but a bit Arwin-esque. And I say, no, because that's pissing in my face when I did move that egg by manipulating something that did cause movement. And Bob accepts that if something moves, a force must be present. Okay, my egg moved, Bob. What was that force? And he'll just go, meh, 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 and he won't do anything. He'll bullshit his way through it. He'll use lots of rhetoric. He'll use sophistry to get round the fact that the manipulation of the medium, the thing that I did cause it to move, because he doesn't want to accept it. Well, he's a fucking idiot, because I did it. I demonstrated it, and he can do it himself.
Sure,
so if he thinks someone else did it, well, prove that. Because otherwise, the thing I did manipulate is the cause, Bob.
But my question was, aside from his disagreement with your experimental data, besides from that,
it's his use of the word science. It's the problem.
Real quick, are there any non-cowards that are ballers out there in the Discord chat?
And let it not be said that we just everybody like agrees with each other in this topic, and we don't call each other out because we don't all agree, and we do call each other out periodically.
I'm just questioning in this instance the benefit. I'm not saying there is no benefit. I'm just saying that it's not risk versus reward, but it kind of is. You know, overall benefit would be, in my opinion, outweighed by the effort that you'd make to debunk one guy and his YouTube opinions.
Well, I wasn't trying to debunk his opinion. He's trying to debunk my evidence.
Well, your experimental valid data is what it is, Anthony.
Yeah, but I don't like the fact that he dismisses the thing that I manipulated.
There it is.
I mean, infer something else instead.
There we go. That's that. There it is. Fine.
Can I make a statement
Sleeping Warrior,
to the Globers?
Do you have dialogue?
Hello?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to make a statement to the Globers, because this is something that they should, right? They should, considering the way they talk, and what they should be interested in. The EQ mount telescope, its polar alignment, completely disproves all movement of the Earth, right? Because it has to be on the Earth. So it completely disproves that. But if that's not good enough for them, they should go to Wolfie6020's channel and watch Wolfie6020's video of the EQ mount that he uses to track the sun on the balcony of his apartment. Now, what is happening there is Wolfie is sending this EQ mount, right, east to west at the same exact rotation speed that would be, let's just say, the presumed rotation speed of a globe Earth to track the stars, right, and the sun or whatever. Now, I asked Wolfie this. I said, can you send that west to east? He said, yeah, I could do it. I could probably do that, Jess. I said, well, what the Globers need to do is send this, right, EQ mount, right, telescope, west to east, right, in the supposed same direction as the supposed rotation of the globe Earth. And at the exact rotation speed it needs to be for that exact location, for its longitude and latitude location. So if they can do that and video it, even for just a few hours, a time lapse of just a few hours, and show what happens. And we'll see. Because I asked Wolfie that, Wolfie went, there's no need to do that. He said, I already know the Earth turns. Because doing that will completely disprove Earth turn.
No,
now, there's people out there like Sean Hawkins
Brian.
and all these other people.
Brian.
Yeah, this is nonsense.
Brian.
No, Earth turn.
Hold on, just let me just
You
deal
already
with it.
inserted again
Just
that
deal
Earth
with
turn.
it. Hold on. Right, in the same way as I've just explained to Anthony at great length, that assuming your outcome, taking a machine that begs the question and affirms the consequent. Who's echoing in Discord? Globus Trollins. It's the same principle. If your premise for how the equatorial mount works is that Earth is turning underneath, and you start affirming the consequent, if you're a globehead, well then you're going to have that outcome. But you've started with the premise that Earth's turning. Now you're saying I'm going to start with the premise that Earth's turning and prove that it doesn't do that. Well, it's no different to Anthony shipping off a bloody gyro. The entire premise is based in faulty logic. There is no necessity to do this whatsoever. Ask him to explain how the equatorial mount proves Earth is spinning, and I absolutely, without question, guarantee he will affirm the consequent. At which point you point that out, and if he continues to argue, he's stupid, and that's it. I've done it with Wolfie in his comments, and he absolutely affirmed the consequent. That's all they've got. So you don't have to take their faulty logic and then try and debunk it within the premise of that faulty logic. Same as Anthony doesn't need to beg the question Earth spinning and start shipping gyros all over the world. No, it's just not necessary. Sorry.
Well, sorry, I think that I don't know if I was fully understood. If you send that, right? If this is nonsense, you can tell me. Shut up, whatever. I'm okay. Just leave me just say this part. If you send that EQ mount west to east, and it doesn't move at the exact same supposed rotation speed of that supposed location, it doesn't move, then it supposedly will be going with the supposed rotation of the Earth. But if over the course of a few hours that is actually rotating, going to rotate, going west to east, then, and it's sitting on the very Earth that's supposed to be rotating at that exact speed, at that exact location, then that completely disproves they are playing. Completely.
Now,
you know your fatal error?
Yeah, what is it?
Is going to Wolfie 60 channel.
No, let me just finish off this, Brian. Now picture you making the exact same assertion in front of Netflix with a camera saying, if it tracks with Earth, then clearly Earth's spinning. I know you didn't overtly state that. There was a lot of weasel words. But that's basically what you said. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't. Then cue the footage of it doing precisely that. And what do you know? Brian's proved it spins. Because he started his premise that he was trying to debunk in the faulty logic that didn't debunk himself. Oh no, he's therefore proven Earth spins. No, you haven't. The logic's...
No, I understand what you mean. I understand what you're saying. I know the thing is not going to... I know the thing is going to move.
May I contribute?
Oh, yeah. Go on.
Yeah. If the Earth spins, then it must spin under an airplane going east to west, and the flight should be shorter. That's it. It's over.
Bravo.
Yeah. Brian Mullen, the reason he was attacked so much because he summed it up immediately. Year one of me being in this discussion, maybe year two, I forget. But not long after I got here, Brian Mullen came on the scene, explained Coriolis deviation with aeroplanes, and basically said if it's drifting, it's got to have a Coriolis effect. Flights would be shortened. He was really simple with it. So, be simple, keep your argument concise, and you'll win.
Hey, Sleeping Warrior, do you have dialogue with Bob from Glowbusters?
I probably have more dialogue with Bob than Sleeping Warrior does.
No, that's what I figured, but I figured I would at least ask him. So that was a negative, correct?
I can't speak to Bob privately because he starts getting all weird in private. When he's public, he's a lot more P's and Q's, polite, but in private, he's an idiot. So I can't speak to him. So I currently have him blocked because I just can't talk to him privately. I can't talk to a lot of people on certain topics if they're too personally invested into it. And it's when it's neutral, it's very easy to talk to people because it doesn't really matter who's right and who's wrong when it's neutral. But Bob's not neutral on this.
Right. Yeah, Bob's got quite a bit of pride, and that's fine. That's his prerogative. But I'm just wondering why you even bother with him. I mean, he does his thing. What's the issue? Why does it bother you so much, I guess, is what I'm asking. Not that I agree with him in any regard.
It bothers me because he literally dismisses relative density disequilibrium as the cause of objects moving relative to each other because he thinks it's something to do with Einstein. He misrepresents it to be something to do with Einstein and basically wants to assert that it's like some other form of gravity himself. Now, I don't care what he speculates, but I do care when he dismisses my test that demonstrated that when I give something a bit of a manipulation, it makes something move. So it means that, and he admits that there must be a force if something moves. Well, my something moved, but the force that must be there by his own volition needs to be identified. Well, he doesn't want it to be the manipulation of the medium. And that's what I manipulated. So that was the cause. I added mass to the medium and it changed the relative density and caused disequilibrium. And Bob denies that. And I want to know why. He hasn't got any science to support his belief of something to the contrary, and it pisses me off.
Well, I'm familiar with your experiment. And so Bob goes out of his way to especially state that he thinks you're incorrect.
Yeah.
Well, the weird part is that it's
I'm
not
sorry, you
only
cut
that
out. Was
he
that a yes?
denies it, right? But I mean, I understand if he would say, all right, obviously Riley has proven, relative density, this equilibrium has, some sort of an effect. Maybe there is something else we could add on to that afterwards. Great. But he doesn't say that. He says relative density doesn't mean a thing. It has nothing to do with the experiment, which is weird because that's what he manipulated was the damn.
No, let me refine that because he doesn't quite say it like that. What he says is,
go ahead.
He says density and buoyancy explains 99% of it, right? But that's a misrepresentation because I don't call it density and buoyancy. I call it relative density disequilibrium, and he knows that, but he wants to rebrand it and calls it density and buoyancy. But I don't use the word buoyancy because buoyancy's got little g in the maths, right? And we know that little g is not a force. So when they calculate using little g, even though they might match the observed effect, it doesn't mean that the maths is right. But when Bob uses density and buoyancy to misrepresent my point and then try and debunk the point that I do make by using gravimeters, I don't know what his intention is there, but he's actually trying to debunk my claim by misrepresenting my claim and then inferring some other cause that wasn't manipulated in my test to dismiss the thing that was manipulated in my test that does prove that initial bias was the thing that I manipulated rather than the unicorn farts that he wants it to be. He believes, pushes, asserts, claims. Nonsense. It pisses me off.
Well, you did an experiment, not a test.
No, it is a test.
Experiment is a test.
I know. I was trying to. Nathan corrected him on it earlier, and I was trying to help him out there.
No, a test. If you say test, and you're talking about school, so I went to school today and did a test. Contextually, colloquially, you're talking about a piece of paper, potentially an exam. When you're talking about science and you say test, it means experiment. A test in science is an experiment. Have you got something presented, Darwin?
I was just flicking through the latest Babbler talk on space. And then I bumped into this image, and it's a donut in space. It's like...
How appropriate.
Oh, shit. But anyway, it was some... there could be a new type of engine for space travel.
Oh,
Why
yeah.
would that be? Could it be because rockets don't work in a vacuum? So they have to change the narrative.
What vacuum?
Load of old rubbish.
A vacuum that doesn't exist, but is presupposed to.
They want that. They want us arguing about whether or not rockets work in a vacuum, because then you're presupposing the sky vacuum, just debating whether or not the vacuum would be conducive for their rockets that they currently use, rather than whether or not it actually exists. Sky vacuum.
So what about that black swan? Do we have any ballers in here who are not cowards, who have any kind of rebuttal? There are a lot of ballers in here, man. We should start just kicking them out if they're not going to have any kind of rebuttal, so we can get some new ballers in here, right?
Yeah. My wife just came in with a copy of Black Swan on Blu-ray.
Y a pagar con la tarjeta ahí, que aquí no servía.
Sí, señor.
Super less aggressive. Like when you
Oh,
attack, do that.
I know that voice.
Here we go. We got Edgy Sphere. Yep. A little Zinder.
Then you should probably wait until I give you go. Because otherwise you lose.
Up, Zinder.
Is that a rebuttal?
I don't know what that was. How are you getting on with the Black Swan argument?
No, I wouldn't know. I really wouldn't know.
Maybe he's on a phone call and just doesn't realise he's talking to us. Hello, Zinder.
Okay, see ya.
Yeah, it's just on a phone call. That was a lovely phone call, Zinder. Thank you for that.
What is that? Sorry.
Thank you for your phone call. We really enjoyed listening to that.
Oh no, I was talking to the Warcraft 3 people. I'm sorry. I didn't
okay.
realize that I was talking to you. Probably
okay.
I put it on the wrong key or so.
That's okay.
Wrong hotkey. But anyway, keep going.
That's okay. No, you're on the hook now, man.
Yeah,
you need to give us that rebuttal.
Well, I got a really important thing here to do with, because I need to finish the game.
I understand.
And I have no idea what you were talking about, to be honest.
Well, I was going to be
just a
quick
15
question.
Minutes or so.
10 seconds.
Yeah, 15 minutes.
10 seconds of response. Can I get a 10-second response out of you? Clearly not. Got to return some videotapes.
Oh, sorry, go on.
Great.
I'm gonna give you one response. I'm sorry, but
Perfect.
I'm gonna concentrate on the game. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Do you understand the Black Swan argument?
With the horizon like behind the object that should be obscured bottom up. That's basically the argument, isn't it?
No.
Or that we can see too far, but
no.
We seeing too far is basically every photo that was taken of the horizon.
No,
that's not the argument. That's okay. Thank you for your input, though.
Like
I gotta say,
if P then Q, therefore Q, P, whatever, and if the Earth is a sphere with a radius of whatever, then sorry, I gotta really concentrate on two things. If the Earth was a sphere, then with a radius of something, then the horizon should be at a distance. Basically, that's the argument.
No.
Well, it's closer than most, to be honest.
I think he's got the argument by the tail.
Well, anyway, keep talking. I'm gonna be back in 15 minutes.
No worries, but you've told us what we needed to know. It's the same state of affairs that it was yesterday. People don't understand the argument.
Why do they think it's a multiple choice?
I don't know. I love how they give what they think is the rendition and then debunk that. Oh, there's been loads of you can see too far. That's not the argument. Thank you for debunking what you thought was the argument. Really helpful.
Hey, look, if the Earth has a radius of something, then the Earth is a ball.
Then something else got to happen, and then that something means Earth is a ball.
I'm sure someone did this about a year ago. It might have even been you, Chocolate, where you just went to the Fundy, what is the radius? And more often than not, they didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah, half the time they don't even know.
Isn't that mad?
They don't know the radius. They don't know the circumference. I mean, it's weird. They're coming here to defend that model, but don't even know the parameters of said model. And don't even bring the model. Anybody got the model to post for us? I'd like to see
There's a word for that. Or
What's
a couple
that?
words.
Go on.
Delusional, Dunning-Kruger, fanatical religious zealots.
Yeah, I think it's Dunning-Kruger on our own side with the Black Swan argument as well. That was the conclusion I came to this morning. So when people literally say, I get this argument, I know what the Black Swan is, and it's old, we've heard it all before, you think, this is Dunning-Kruger. You don't get the argument, but you're going to declare how much you understand it and therefore how much you don't need to pay attention to it, basically because you don't understand it. Your assumption is you understand it because you don't know what you don't know. Dunning-Kruger, right?
It's scary out there.
Yeah, it is. On our side as well, though, is my point. I mean, yes, we can demonstrate fundies don't get the argument all day long because the ones that have pricked their ears up have gone, oh, this is bad. And the ones that haven't have seen that there's a rumbling and just gone, another C2FAR argument, so what? And then they put their headphones back on or go back to their computer game. You know what I mean?
Sorry, I'm eating.
That's okay. The gravity of the situation will catch up with them eventually when they realise it doesn't die on its arse. That, people are just whispering Black Swan to them and that they're suddenly caught in an argument they don't have to defend because somebody's actually cottoned onto this chainsaw and gone, I know how to pull the chain on this. This is great. And suddenly some fundies caught up in an argument, like I say, that they just have no response to. Or they try and respond on the fly and relinquish the geometry in doing so. And suddenly everyone on the opposing side, Flat Earth side, is laughing their head off because the person that's defending the argument of the Black Swan is relinquishing their own geometry to do so. Marvellous.
Yeah, it's like when two people are in a sword fight and then one of the other guys, he's goes up to block and then his sword just gets broken. It's essentially what's happened here.
Yeah. And then the guy continues to fight with half a foil.
You know what's funny is the ballbusters that that the Black Swan was debuted on. I really just thought QE was just getting some jabs in, like, oh yeah, these ballers aren't even gonna realize what the argument is for 6 months or whatever, and that's actually what's coming to fruition. So
9 months.
It's surprising.
Totally agree. And Spurs did, ironically. So I took the piss out of Spurs, but secretly it was me hiding my own shame because that's exactly what I did. I'm like, what do you mean they won't get it? They'll get this within a week, surely. And Spurs was like, what? People don't get this argument. Because once you get it, right? And you don't think there's any big deal to it. You understand the premise that it's based on. You understand the logical consistency. You understand the evidence that's presented. You've got an analogy to back it. You've got every single base covered. And when you present it, they start relinquishing their own geometry. So, once you start doing it, you just think, yeah, this is just the norm now. But then you look around you and hear people going, no big deal. And you're like, you don't get it, do you?
I think it's like how you described it before when you were describing the argument with the certain layers that it comes with. It's like that. The understanding it actually comes with a few layers. And I think the final layer is when you truly understand it and you realize how devastating it is to them, and that every rebuttal that they have is literally them conceding. When you can realize that, then I think that's when you truly have mastered the Black Swan.
I beg to differ with all that.
Oh, go on.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Different.
Yeah. Logical consistency, ballers use all day long in other subject matters. So we bring the Black Swan with a very similar logical consistency. They get it. They're just in denial.
I don't know. You're giving them too much credit, man.
No, I'm not giving them any credit.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, when you live on this earth and you have business dealings and all kinds of subject matters you deal with, not just flat earth and round earth, ball. Logical consistency is there in your life somewhere, where you're asking for the correct change when you buy something or when you read over a contract. It's all there. They see it. They understand what logic is. But when it comes to something that is their religion, a zealot fundi, as Nathan puts it, they have to be in denial of the very logical consistency arguments they use on other matters. So it's not what I'm hearing from people, that people have not been trained in school to be logical thinkers. I don't think that carries as much weight as they want to say. I do believe they're not taught those things at the same time. But when it comes to little simple things, they use logic. But then when it comes to use logic, if P, then Q, not Q, therefore not P, and it's so obvious, they know it. They're just in denial.
No, they don't know it. You give them too much credit.
They use logic like it's artistry. So they make pictures logic themed, but the actual reasoning itself is broken. And it has been for a long time. It has been originally, when they rest on the philosophy of their interpretation of science. And that is where it became detached from reality. And they rest on that vague notion of people talking, sounding very smart to them, like in the 70s, 80s, 90s. That's in the back of their mind, really kind of what propels it forward, in my opinion.
Okay, can I hear more than just
QE.
No, they don't get it from QE without someone else talking over him?
All right.
Yeah, thanks.
Nah, I'm not going to say anything.
But, well, I agree with you anyway. Even though you're not going to say what it was, I'll say it. They don't get it. That's demonstrably the case. So, sorry, 10th man. I'd want to hear at least one person give me the argument back.
I'll agree. I don't agree, because you're interpreting what I'm saying a little different than the way I'm saying it. So you're right, and I'm right on the same thing. And this is the same
I heard
problem.
you. You're saying in general day-to-day existence, they're going to experience things that require logical thinking. But when it comes to this, they're kind of sticking their head in the sand when it comes to logical thought and reasoning, because it's contradicting their religion. So I do understand what you're saying, but that implies that they actually understand the logic to begin with. You've got to, either hear it to know that you've got to stick your head in the sand, or hear it and then stick your head in the sand. But either way, they've heard it, they just don't understand it, is my point. And
Hang on. This is the point that's important. The logic doesn't change on the everyday things as it concerns this subject. It's the same logic. So what's happening? And what I'm saying what's happening is that cognitive dissonance kicks in at this point, and they're in denial of that very logic that they uphold 99% of the day.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. But they understand the logic, but they go into denial mode immediately.
Well, oh, here we go. Well, what's happening here? Okay, I don't want to stereotype fallacy everyone. The ballers, it's hard not to, though, because I don't know what crowd you're hanging out in, but the ballers I know, they're as dumb as a root vegetable. They can't hold I'm going to stereotype them because as a collective, this is true. They can't hold two logically consistent thoughts in their mind to come to a coherent conclusion. I have yet to find that skill among one single baller. I'll tell you what. Show me one that can do that. Just name them.
And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who did tune in on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. Another massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels for making this show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!